Hello gamers, I'm Nkaziel, and in this video I want to talk about a masterpiece of a game that I almost missed on. And maybe you too think it's not worth your time, just like I did, and I'm here to share my experience, and maybe if the things I say resonate with you, you might find yourself enjoying this game as much as I have. I am talking about Remnant 2. I picked this game up over a week ago. I was bored at the weekend and I thought I'd play this game for a few hours until my partner was done studying. Much to my surprise, the experience was absolutely amazing and it has taken most of my free computer time since then. I wanted to make a video about it from the second or third day I was playing, but I simply didn't want to stop playing. I only started writing the script after I had finished the campaign once, and I still plan to play this game for a while longer. This game released almost 2 months ago, and I will be honest, I didn't think much of it at the time. My brother-in-law picked it up and he shared how amazing it was. But, just like most reviews online, he described it as being a Souls-like game, and personally I am not a fan of them. So I lost interest in it right from the start, and since I had other things to play, I didn't give it too much thought. The main reason for this is that I really dislike being stuck in animations. Animation lock is a typical characteristic that usually comes with Soul-like games, and personally I enjoy smooth and responsive combat. If you are like me, you will be happy to know that this game features some of the smoothest and most responsive combat that you can experience in this type of game. I understand some people really enjoy the very same aspects that I dislike, and I'm not saying that those aspects should change in Souls games. However, it does make me happy when a game like Remnant 2 releases that appeals to people like me. And I do think being called a Souls-like game is a disservice both to this game and Souls games alike, because if someone comes in and expects a Souls game, they might not find exactly that. At the same time, people that don't like Souls games might skip on it because it is described as such. That being said, it has a lot of similarities, especially in how content is being delivered and designed. But I think the extremely responsive combat creates a massive difference that not only needs to be mentioned, but it fundamentally changes the way we experience this content, and it is why I'm putting so much emphasis on this. Because I started this comparison to the typical Souls games, I will address a few more things that I think are fundamentally different, and for me it fixes some of the problems that I had in the past with Souls games. First and foremost, the user interface. It's clear and you can easily understand everything. The game itself provides you with a decent amount of information and utility. For example, the map and minimap are extremely accurate, easy to read and understand. Secrets are cleverly hidden, and the vast majority of them only require observation skills or simply figuring out a puzzle. Of course, there will be some that require you to be familiar with a lot of the game, but in general the whole design of the game does not seek to impede your progress, and it does not have you repeat the same section over and over again for the smallest amount of progress. For me personally, this is a major bonus. I do not appreciate when games just artificially stretch content by poor design, like a UI that gives less information or boss battles that require you to simply memorize various high-damaging patterns. Just like with combat, I appreciate the reactive approach to this, rather than one that only seeks to test your memory and patience. I also need to mention the world building. This is done through quests and even just chatting and asking various NPCs questions. They have done a magnificent job with this. You'll be able to read some notes and books left around as well as item descriptions. But the vast majority of information is delivered by NPCs and it's all voice acted. And the voice acting is pretty stellar in my opinion. I will try to keep this as spoiler free as possible, so no need to worry about getting spoiled. The overarching story is fairly minimal and involves you traveling to different worlds. However, each of these worlds come with a very well fleshed out story that I found to be beautifully told and very compelling, and vastly different for each of them. They all involve eventually fighting a big boss, but the way you go about reaching that point is different in each of these worlds. The way they deliver the story is different from most RPG games, and personally I find it interesting and quite refreshing. The order in which you explore these worlds is random, and each of these worlds will have roughly 2 possible stories, and you will roll one of those 2. On top of this, the maps you explore and the order in which you do so is randomized, so even if you explore the same area as one of your friends, it might be quite different. Usually, soul-like games offer the possibility to replay the game after finishing it. Personally, I never had any interest in replaying the story in most of these games, because most of the time you would be fighting the same bosses and the overall story would be roughly the same. So for me there was very little reason to replay any of these games. However, in Remnant 2, the fact that the maps are random and each of the worlds you explore have 2 different main story quests that you can follow makes me want to explore them again, each of these worlds being worth exploring at the very least 2 times. The second time you explore them, the experience you have will be additive rather than just being a repeat of the first run. And even if you choose to replay from the same starting point, what you experience could be different. This adding value to the game and allowing you to replay the game with your friends, even through something that you have already explored. Especially since the game has a crazy amount of secrets hidden all over, some of which are highly likely that you will miss only in one playthrough. There are 3 main worlds that you will explore and 2 other environments that are related to the main story. There is a little complaint that I have regarding this, and it is that I simply wish there was a few more. The stories for each of these worlds was fantastic, and maybe because of that I wish there were 2 or 3 more. But hopefully this will be added with some DLCs in the future that I am sure to grab and play as soon as they come out. Then again, maybe no matter how many worlds they would have added, I would have always felt the same. Because when I get to play a game as amazing as this, I always felt left in wanting more, and this is the main reason why I love games that are delivered as live services, like MMORPGs for example. Because I know that they will be continuously updated, so if and when I find one that I truly love, I know that I can keep coming back to it. I mentioned a couple of times playing with friends, and I think it's worth elaborating, because this is not just a single player game, and I have yet to see a game that caters both to single player and multiplayer, as well as Remnant 2. Most RPGs of this kind are single player games, and whenever they feature multiplayer, it's just slapped on top, and to me it always feels like just an afterthought. In Remnant 2, they designed the game to be just as enjoyable for both type of players. And while I cannot do it justice with words, I can give a practical example that I think pretty much describes the way they approach this. If your character is alone, they will talk to themselves about the quest or the bosses you defeated. However, when you are playing with others, the characters will go back and forth talking about these things. While this is a simple and maybe inconsequential example, it's this design philosophy that is applied to everything else. Each archetype will have multiple ways it can interact with others, and overall I think the game will provide the same level of enjoyment to both people that love to play alone and the ones that love to play with their friends. Of course, this is not an MMORPG or anything like that, so up to 2 friends can join you on this adventure for a total of 3 players. Other elements that I want to point out are character agency and build variety. When you create a character, you will have a pretty minimal character creator that offers a few options. It's nothing impressive, you are given a very few options, but I guess it's better than it not existing at all. Most of the visual customization in-game happens from your choice of armors, and there is not much depth to it when it comes to this. Armor with low weight will offer less protection and more mobility, while armor with high weight will offer more protection but take away your mobility. Overall, visually speaking, my only problem was the fact that we had a backpack that we couldn't hide and it did not change based on the armor we were using, which often ended up making it stand out in a bad way. When it comes to build variety, I think it's pretty well done. You have a relic slot, which is a sort of rechargeable potion that also has other benefits. 1 amulet, 4 rings and 3 weapons, 1 main weapon, 1 handgun and a melee weapon. All these slots have a vast amount of options and they are pretty well balanced, offering you the ability to customize and create a playstyle somewhat unique to you. I say that all these slots have a vast amount of options, but that is over time. The game does not throw at you useless gear, and as I was playing the game I felt the impact of this, and it is no small thing. When you get a new piece of gear, you feel like this might be useful in certain situations or builds, and this is refreshing to experience, especially when most games just drop you a vast amount of useless stuff and you end up spending hours sorting through inventories. Another layer of customization will be achieved by your archetypes, and here you will also be spoiled by choice. There are a total of 11 vastly different archetypes, 4 of which will be starting archetypes, the rest you will have to unlock, some simply by purchasing them from NPCs, while others might be hidden and require a different approach. In these aspects, the devs are following the same principle they have for the vast majority of design choices. The game does not impede your choice or seek to waste your time. You can change these archetypes on the go, just like you would change items. And as an added bonus, you will be able to equip a second archetype. This, together with the vast amount of choice that you have when it comes to items, allows you to truly customize the way you play to fit your playstyle. Remnant 2 also has traits, which are sort of talents that come with different increases, such as stamina, health, fire rate and other things that in general further expand your customization options available, most of which you'll unlock during your time with the game. Sadly, the amount of traits you can have active at one time are capped, and this is another one of those small complaints that I have about the game. You have a wide variety of available traits, but because of the cap, the trait system feels very limited. I understand it might be done for the sake of balance, but it does feel extremely limited, especially when compared to all the other systems that allow so much freedom. I could probably go on and talk in depth about everything the game has and these systems, but I think that will subtract from your experience rather than prepare you to explore a wonderful game. And I think experiencing things for yourself is much more valuable than me telling you about these things. So in conclusion, I think Remnant 2 is a masterpiece that is not being talked about enough. I think it's one of the very best games of this year, and it far exceeds some of the other titles that have been very vocally talked about in the media. In my opinion, if you enjoy RPGs, I think you should most definitely check out the Remnant 2, and it is well worth the price. It provides both options for people that wish to play alone and people that want to play with friends. You will be spoiled by choice when it comes to customizing your playstyle and by the absolutely stellar stories that you will find in this game. The only massive negative this game has is that once you are done with it, you will most likely be left wanting more. The very last thing that I want to mention is that, as the name suggests, this is a sequel to Remnant 2 From the Ashes, and there is also a third game called Chrono Before the Ashes. These games seem to be much worse games than Remnant 2 in all aspects, but I most likely will be playing them as well simply because I want to experience all the available story. The Remnant AP has earned a new fan in me, because of the absolute amazing job they have done with Remnant 2. Feel free to let me know what you think about the game. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, or don't. See you in the next one, gamers.